Hi, this is Shane Bryan from the Bad Boys Podcast. While the Bad Boys Podcast is on a break, I decided to launch a brand new show featuring interviews with some amazing guests that we've had, as well as new interviews that I've done on my radio show on LAFM. I've had so many interviews that I've done and so many more planned now. The show is called A Long Way to the Top, and if you'd like to hear more, then search for Long Way to the Top on the platform that you're listening to right now. Enjoy this special Bad Boys presentation of Long Way to the Top. This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. In the words of the immortal AC/DC, it is harder than it looks. These interviews will give you a glimpse into the lives of the artists that we've sung along with, danced and rocked out to. Some go deep into their past and others celebrate their recent releases. But all of them show that regardless of who you are, it's always a long way to the top. Today's episode of Long Way to the Top is a little different to my normal shows. Brendan Bernard Brown, commonly known as BBB to his fans, is the lead vocalist, guitarist, and the only remaining founding member of Wheatus. He was in Australia ahead of the Pandemonium tour, where he will share the stage with Blondie, Deep Purple, Placebo, and the legendary Alice Cooper. Instead of doing the interview myself, I handed over the reins to a young guy I work with. You could say he's the original Teenage Dirtbag, Nic Groer. I hope you enjoy today's episode of Long Way to the Top as Nic chats with Wheatus.
So I'm with Brandon B. Brown, and you're the lead singer or lead person for Wheatus, the band.
Yeah.
It's crazy to be talking to you, actually.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And like I say, the crazy thing is because I reckon you're probably one of the number one karaoke songs ever sung. You'd definitely be up there with Teenage Dirtbag, surely.
Oh, well, we're very grateful about that. Every once in a while we kind of look at this and say, we're still doing this, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
it's still
holding on.
Yeah, and we never got used to it. We never got used to being successful in any sense, so it still feels like it's Christmas morning, kind of like every time. And what they want us for download, what they want us for Pandemonium, what Art wants me to go do acoustic touring. Are you kidding me? Like, it's always a surprise.
And it's crazy. You're on the Pandemonium lineup. That's insane in itself. Like, you're playing alongside some massive names. Who have you got on that? You've got Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Blondie, Alice Cooper, Deep Purple, Placebo. It was a really cool band. Wolf Mother's on, as you said. Bunch of other great acts from Australia that I'm looking forward to checking out. It's like well, as a New Yorker, playing a show with Blondie is kind of like, what? Like, we're doing what? Like, okay, I didn't think I'd get to check that off the list, but holy cow. It's
even like Deep Purple is insane. Like, one of the world's loudest bands of even the 70s.
Yeah, arguably invented heavy metal, kind of like I think our third record, Too Soon Monsoon, really trying to sound like Deep Purple on that one. Like, we're going for that, like, where the Hammond organ is just as loud as the guitar. And everything is really chunky and it just sounds bigger than possible,
Oh yeah. That's one thing I noticed was I was like, what Wheatus songs do I have on my playlist? I've got like 200. One of my favorites I remember listening to a lot last year was your most recent one, the Valentine LP.
Yeah.
It is so, like, every song just feels so different from the other. And one thing I wanted to ask from you was, what is that on the track, Break It, Don't Buy It? There's sort of like a Japanese violin sound in the back.
It's called an erhu.
Erhu, yeah.
And it was played by my friend Jack, who's a traditional erhu professional. And it's like you said, it's a traditional Chinese violin.
Yeah,
it's a folk instrument, and it is absolutely gorgeous to record. And he's like the best ever. Look him up. Jack Su is his name, and he's basically all over the place with that thing. He's really successful. He was kind enough to come in and play a track down on that for me.
So you booked him and the Japanese violin, or was it like
Chinese,
you needed that?
Chinese instrument actually, but it's
Chinese, yeah. So
like I said, it's called an erhu.
Erhu.
That's
So does that follow him around?
Oh yeah, he's basically like an erhu rock star. Like he plays that thing on stages with big heavy bands, and he's a lead erhu player and songwriter.
Oh,
Brilliant. He's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, had to have it on that track.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah.
I'm so happy about it. It's such a it is one of those ones you can sit back and just enjoy. Like it's just the sound of it's amazing.
It was a real exercise for us in that's one of the hardest songs for whenever we have a new drummer come in. It takes a long time to get. There's two songs that take a really long time to get. It's Dirtbag and that one. And
Dirtbag?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, because we spent such a long time doing the beat science on that with that shuffle.
Yep.
Right. And everyone thinks they know how to do it, and they come off like real sort of pop punk, but it's got more of a Motown, more of a Phil Rudd and sort of James Jamerson kind of backbeat kind of thing.
Yeah, wow.
So because it should feel lazy, you know, and it's just one of those things that takes a long time. And Break It Don't Buy It is one of those we were trying to feel like. You ever heard the song "What's Next to the Moon" on the AC/DC record Powerage?
No.
It's just this sort of like. Well, Gone Shooting is another one from that record, but they're both have this sort of like bat. You know, they're kind of like lazy, like slap, like back music. And it was funny that they classed us as pop punk because it's not really a pop punk song.
What would you class it as?
Well, I would say that it's an eclectic New York rock song. That was how I would put it. The rhythm section is 100% Motown, and sort of we're trying for like an LL Cool J or a Public Enemy record. That sort of those shuffles and those feels and or early hip hop, and the low end as well. But from the sort of like from the guitars and the snare up, it's all sort of like Metallica, Rush, kind of.
Oh, insane! Yeah,
we were trying to make this hybrid. You know, it was another story I told. Like, why did you record it in your mother's basement? And the real reason. Because had I walked into a studio in New York in 1996 and said, well, you know, I want the verses to sound like Paul Simon and James Taylor, and I want the chorus to feel like Metallica, and I want the, you know, the back to be like hip hop, and they would have kicked me out. You know, get out of here. What are you talking?
Just do it yourself.
Yeah. So we had to invent that hybrid like on our own, you know.
Yeah. Oh, it came out amazing too, though. Like it really worked, and it just came out. It really worked because it's still here.
Yeah, it's fun to play when you get it right. When you get it right, it's fun.
And the best thing about it too, you did something that I've been wanting every band to do once, is just do one Christmas song per band. And you did it. You finally did it and you made the best song for it. How did that come about? Why'd you go Christmas Dirtbag?
We had talked about that for so many years, and just the way that we tour, the schedules we were never active during that period. So finally, we toured so much last year that we were sort of still working in June and July, and getting ready to head out again. And it was like, you know, we could squeeze in a little EP. You know, we could do it this time. But it was like, if we're going to do something with Dirtbag, I don't want to do it myself because I don't know how to rewrite that as a Christmas song. So I turned to my partner, Gabrielle Sturbans, and I said, you know, can you do this? Can you take 24 hours and redo this as a Christmas song? And she was like, let me give it a shot. She nailed it. She totally nailed it. She's like, you idiot, this was easy. It's the first song. The first lyric is her name is Noel, and that's Christmas is Noel. So I don't know. Like, and I was like, you know what? That's what happens when you sing the same thing for 30 years. You just
forget. You
don't have the imagination anymore.
Yeah.
But she did it. And then Joey, our other backing vocalist, she came with a song that she had done 12 months of Christmas. So she was like, in the Christmas, she was ready. And she came
worlds combined.
Yeah, with Feels Like Christmas. That was Gabrielle's song, and then Joey's song was You Made Me Believe in Christmas, and then Gabrielle had her sort of like Phil Spector-y kind of song for a while there, and I also did the cello, the quartet version with my friend Scrap back in New York and from Dirtbag, and it came together really fast. It was like an emergency record. Can we make this in July? Really? Like, can we get it done? Because we're leaving in August. Like,
you really like Yankovic your own song then.
kind of did. Yeah.
You should. Yeah. Like it came out great, but have you ever thought about like talking to Weird Al and just saying like, like that's there.
You have to understand what kind of a superhero he is to me. I did work with him tangentially on a record. He played accordion on my friend MC Lars's album. We wrote a song together called True for Real, and Al played accordion on the chorus, and that's as close as I ever got. So he's like, I mean, it'd be hard to be a musician in the 80s and not have really felt the pull of Weird Al. Like, the intelligence of it and the depth of it and the curiosity.
It's a bit like a musical boogeyman. Like if you put out a song, he's coming for you.
Yeah. He's like and the first time you listen to him, it's like a genie has come out of the bottle and it's not going back in. Because you're like, did this guy really write a song about Star Wars?
Has he really not done anything with Teenage Dirtbag though?
No, he hasn't. I mean, it's going to be his. You don't talk about that.
No,
he does what he wants. He's got nothing to prove to anybody. Al, he's like I said, he's like superhuman. So we're just gonna.
It'll come to him.
Just gonna be grateful that he exists.
Hey, on the picture in the back, I do see a hat. That's not a bucket hat, perchance, is it?
No, I'm in my friend Dave's house. No, that's his stuff. He does wear bucket hats. I do have my bucket hat here because it's the only one I still wear when it's sunny. Have you got your
classic?
Oh yeah.
No way.
You want me to prove it? Is that what you're getting? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hold on a sec. Just want to be able to hear you.
The reaction.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yes. I love it. You've held on to it. That's sick.
It's not as crisp as it once was. It's a little bit
it was white at once.
Now it's got some sunscreen on it and the coffee stains.
So that's been like your Superman's cape. That's just been your uniform.
Yeah, it's I wore them when I was a little kid. I always wore them. My mom used to throw them on me because of the sun, so it was like.
And I was going to say, Brendan, can you say to my mum, I bought a bucket hat the other day and she's saying, don't wear that. You look like an idiot. Can you say to my mum, no, he needs a bucket. He needs sun safety down here.
I know I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it's okay to look like an idiot if you're going for sun safety. That's what
yeah. Great message for the people. And one other thing while you're in the bucket, you're a little Vegemite. You love Vegemite. I saw a picture of you and Vegemite and Tim Tams.
Yeah. No, it's real. The only Australian thing I'm not really into is Lamingtons, and I'm going to give it another shot. Somebody gave me a Lamington on TV one time, first time we got here. Yeah, and from Channel V gave me a Lamington, and I
just
wasn't into it, man.
It's like Aussie brownie. That's what.
Yeah, right. But everything else, Promite. I'm a Promite fan. Sometimes I opt for Promite instead.
Yeah.
You can't beat it for just a breakfast food. It's
exactly
lovely savory thing. You just throw down and it's done. It's really.
Well, it's funny because I read your Twitter and I think your most recent one, like 10 hours ago, was like, I use my shorts as a face mask. Now they smell like Probite or something.
Yeah, it was last night. I'm trying to get my sleep schedule right. I'm still not on the right schedule coming from New York, and like the sun's coming through the window at 1:00,000 in the morning.
Whatever. Yeah.
And I pulled my shorts, my old shorts that I wore overnight, like over my face. I'm like, these smell like Promite, man. What's going on? Am I that deep in Australia? It's only been 24 hours, and it's already my shorts are stinking like Promite. And, might as well just move here at that point.
I can imagine that smell. It's like, why? But then, oh well, it's
not bad. They've smelled like worse things, So I mean,
like I said, I don't smell like shit. So can't be too hard. So what's coming up for you then, apart from this Pandemonium, which is going to be absolutely crazy?
Well, in the day after tomorrow, my tour with Art Alexakis from Everclear starts. And that's the most important thing for me right now is just get focused on that, because that's a little bit like, that's pretty serious. You got to be good with just your guitars, no band backing you up. And Art
Yep.
is such a great songwriter. And we're doing this thing where I'm going to play my set and then he's going to play his. And then we're going to jump on stage together at the end.
Yep.
And talk shop and maybe play a little bit more. And you know, it's a great honor to be included in that by him, because he's one of these guys I look at, like, even before I knew him, I was looked up to him as an American songwriter in the class of, like, you know, Randy Newman, and like they're really and I'm just excited about what he's going to teach me, you know, because I've been on tour with him before and I learned a lot, and this is going to be like a real look under the hood. So I'm stoked, man.
What are you like looking to learn from that sort of experience?
When you are a songwriter, the whole thing is you're trying to tell somebody a story, or you're trying to convey an emotion with your instrument, right? Like, and that's your voice and just your guitar, with the bare bones, like just the voice and guitar, right?
Yeah.
And the challenge is always like, you know, you go to the studio and you dress everything up, you put drums on it, you do all this stuff, right? And it's all an elixir for the idea.
Yeah.
But there's always this sort of anxiety that maybe the idea can't stand on its own. So being a songwriter myself, who does on the acoustic guitar always originally, the first thing I do is play it on the acoustic by myself. I'm trying to pull myself away from, well, the bass would be doing this right now, and the girls would be singing this harmony, and blah, 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 you know, like get all that
picturing the whole thing.
Yeah. Try and get all that out of the way and just get back to what you were trying to say with the song in the first place. And that's another level of pro performance that, you know, I think Art's a little bit more used to than I am. So I'm going to try and really focus on how does that work? How does Willie Nelson do that? How did Tom Petty do that? You know, like, Prince is another one who could probably just sit there with a keyboard. And I watched it.
Just pump something out.
I saw Prince play Purple Rain on the piano once.
Yeah.
And it was all there. And I don't know how it was all there, but it was all there. And it's because of him, you know, it's because of how connected he is to what he's trying to say to you.
Yeah.
How honest and all that. So, you know. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the biggest artists, I reckon, who would convey emotion would be like Frank Zappa. And one thing he said was like he tried not to keep the same guitar solo twice in a row, because it was what you were feeling at the time. That's the guitar solo for that song, or something like that. That was his sort of thing. And it was like, mate, how do you do that every show though? Like, how do you get a new guitar solo for that? I don't know, it just sounds nuts, but
he just knew his shit, man.
Yeah.
You know, he worked hard. That's how he got that, you know.
Oh, he lived music. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah. And spend 9 hours, 10 hours a day playing your guitar and figuring out new stuff, and you'll be like that. You know?
Yeah. So have you got the acoustic with you? Like, do you just jam and just go?
Yeah, it's just behind me here. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, sick.
Not the original. I don't take that original out anymore.
Oh, really?
She's too fragile. Yeah. That particular model, Martin, had not a defect, but a design idiosyncrasy that over time would separate. And the only way to fix it is with epoxy. And I already had the repair done once. The next time it breaks, it's over. So I don't want to risk it, you know, 20 or plane flight, you know.
It's museum worthy now.
I do have my other custom here, my custom acoustic that I've been using these days.
Oh, sick. Yeah. I'm surprised, like, do you have a lot of instruments at home, or?
I have a few guitars. Yeah. I have, let's just say there's more than 10, but they're not collectible. I don't have like a Gibson Les Paul that's from the 60s, and I don't have a really fancy Stratocaster. I don't have anything that's
George Harrison's. Yeah.
No. Although I would pick up a Malcolm Young Gretsch if I saw one hanging somewhere. I would check that out. But I don't have the kind of money for that kind of thing. I just collect guitars that make sense to me, music, you know.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Some of them are real cheap and weird, and some of them are like well made but hard to find and not particularly desirable. You know, that's the kind of stuff I'm drawn to. You know.
Then what is your strange like collection then? Do you have one that you just go like, do you have anything that you go like Vegemite jars or something? Or is it like coins?
BMX bikes?
You're a BMX bike collector.
I'm not a collector. I once was. I once did collect vintage BMX bikes from the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, but I stopped doing it and sold most of the ones. I still have a few hanging around. I have an original Harry Leary Diamondback Turbo BMX bike from 1982. That one is from.
Oh, you love them.
Yeah. That's I still cruise them on eBay
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Bike porn. It's just like forever.
Flicking through. Oh, I might save that one for later.
Too expensive these days, but
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I do have a fair bit, but I guess like I don't want to waste your time anymore.
Oh,
But
go ahead. You ask away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What well, I wanted to ask as well, One Direction, their when their audio cut out or when when everything was just failing, their silent song while everything was failing was Teenage Dirtbag.
I didn't know that. I never saw them have a technical malfunction. I saw them a few times.
Yep.
I was friends with
Our
them.
resident One Direction person, M, here, she said to me, like when they had a technical difficulty, they would sing Teenage Dirtbag while the mics were down, and like that was their song. And I was like, I'm talking to that guy.
Yeah, I guess they were. From what I come to understand, I met them a few times, and I understand that they were all like 9 or 10 years old when Dirtbag came out. So it's like
Yes.
this, like first rock song that they got into when they were little kids. I think that's the story anyway. But,
Well, you did perform with some of One Direction's band as well.
yeah, Josh Devine and Sandy Beals are good friends of mine.
Yep.
We've made a few records together. We put out a single called Only You back in 2014.
That's right.
3 of us played on that, and that's about when the time I was attacked on stage for playing a One Direction song.
No way. What was the song?
Okay, yeah. It's called Only You. I was playing at the time. I was playing What Makes You Beautiful. We were covering that. We were doing sort of we did like broke it down in like a halftime like hardcore mosh like in the middle. We were having fun with that, but some drunk weirdo in the audience wasn't having it, and he jumped on stage and he got past security, got my leg, and like pulled me off the stage, and he was trying to beat me up and stuff. He did, but it was good enough to write a song about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick. Well, I think like to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well, you do need to get dragged off stage and like beaten up as well. I think every legend has.
I always remember that story about Mike Dirnt from Green Day. He was trying to get back on stage at Woodstock, and a security guard maybe punched him, knocked his teeth out, or something like that.
Same army, same guy.
Yeah.
Are you gonna release another album? Are you gonna go like a different sound?
I don't know if you saw, but we just re-released our first.
I did see that.
It's a 20-song version. The original was only 10, and this is 20 songs.
Yep.
And it's the first 10 that you're familiar with, but it's also 10 others that were songs that we shelved from over the years that we just didn't do because they sounded too much like they belonged on that first record.
Yeah.
We want to put them out. So after a while, we just had this collection of sort of alternate first album songs.
Yeah.
And we recorded them all and put them on the it's a double disc set. If you go to Spotify, all the streaming sites, it's on there now. A full 20-song version of the first album.
Oh wow!
So that is all technically new music that we put out, but in the last couple of years. But the the 7th studio album is something that we've been working on for a long time. There's 3 songs from that 7th album that are on streaming right now. A song called Tipsy, another one called Lullaby, and a third on a live record called Michelle. And that's a sort of a experimental approach for us. These songs sound really heavy, but there's some weird jazz chords in them, but they're still sort of pop accessible, sing along. We're trying for something a little different, something that merges the old pop standard jazz with like New York hardcore. From my background. So
are you you're kind of experimenting then in a way? Because I was going to say, have you like early on, do you think you found your sound, or are you like still?
That's a really good question. Yes is the answer.
Yeah.
In 96, 97, I found the sound of Teenage Dirtbag and found my own voice in as a singer, songwriter, as the leader of a band. But over the years, I have come to sort of like cherish the process of discovery more than and finding something to sit back on, right?
Yep.
So like I can play Teenage Dirtbag until I'm blue in the face and hit those high notes and whatever else, but what I'm really interested in is can I ever learn how to play the way that Willie Nelson plays? You know, can I ever learn how to can I make a successful, like, you know, sludge metal record?
Yeah,
with my songs, you know, can I do something?
I love that.
So that discovery process drives me on in the studio and in the writing a lot.
But that's a good thing, because I know a lot of different bands will just like, they'll fall on what's kind of going around them. Whereas the thing that I've loved from listening to your albums has been the fact that it's been like, it just feels a bit different each time, where it's like, you know, you're like sort of having fun with whatever sound you just feel like at the time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And not it's creative.
Like you mentioned before.
Yep.
Valentine LP was this sort of like, okay, well, let's go back to we had made some EPs, some experimental, like progressive rock EPs with like 80s drum sounds and things. And I went back to like, I want all the drums on this record to be from the Civil War. Like, I want them all to be old. So I went on eBay and bought a whole bunch of old drums, built drum kits out of these like gnarly old marching drums and weird stuff that no one would think of in a studio. And they sound sort of like thumpy and hollow and big and old. And I wanted to make a rock record with those sounds, you know.
It's sick. Yeah.
I also bought this amplifier from the 50s that Buddy Holly used to use, the same model. It's called a Magnetone.
Yep.
And I got this sort of watery sound on the guitar that I was working on. I put it on the bass as well, and just tried to find, you know, some sort of new thing that I had never heard before to put the songs in the frame of, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hope that one day, like with your music, like, you know, it might sound non-commercial or whatever, and that's fine, but I hope one day, like say 20 years down the track, that is a common sound now. Like, that's like, oh, they really hit it early on, didn't they?
The Valentine LP is sort of almost like a lo-fi record. Like it's kind of feels like a Guided by Voices record, or one of the like early indie rock bands that from the 80s, late 80s. So a lot of like Husker Du sort of influence on it in terms of the sound. It's sort of watery and different. And you know, I didn't want to make anything that was like competitive. Like, I hate that. I hate that idea, you know. Like, and that's another reason that, you know, we didn't really ever try to write another Teenage Dirtbag, is because the context would be wrong. It's just like, we did that, and that record sounds like it sounds, and we did that in my mom's basement. I want to do something else in another basement somewhere, you know, like that was kind of the idea. And I'm happier with that than if we had like a few songs that kind of sounded like Teenage Dirtbag that people knew. It's like, oh wow, no.
Yeah, they're still doing that again. Did you hear the response video? Someone on I saw this on TikTok. Someone did the perspective from Noelle.
Yes, Jax, my friend Jax did that. Yeah, we've become friends since, because I spoke to her, and she invited me on stage at Madison Square Garden to do a guest vocal. But she's a genius, man. She kind of like reimagined a new identity for the song, and that's the best way to do it, because it sort of is an identity song. But, you know, and I've gone through what the time and place was, where I came from, where the song came from, and the writing of it, the satanic panic of the 1980s in New York, and like all this sort of gothic stuff and the murder and all that stuff. But the more important thing, the reason the song still survives, is because people can see themselves in the narrative and build it around their own experience, and make it, that's more important than wherever I was coming from. Like, wrote it. So she did this beautiful thing. And you know, Phoebe Bridgers has done that, and SZA has done that, and
we had Amy Shark does it as a cover for her.
She was one of the first. She was like one of the early ones who did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her version is great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that went off. I remember Falls Festival, she did that, and it was just like, oh yeah, like goosebumps sort of moment. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I should reach out to her while we're down here.
Yeah, definitely.
Get her email. I have her email somewhere. I'll find it and reach out. Yeah.
Oh, that would be amazing. Imagine you two.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm into it. I'll play with anybody. I'll rock.
And I'll finish up with this last question. What do you think makes a current day Teenage Dirtbag?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to say that I think that that maybe the real struggle for identity is possibly amongst the immigrants in Western culture, because there's so much backlash these days.
Yep.
You know, like this silly racism that's happening in the States. It's awful. And I always sort of, when I think about like a modern like incarnation of the Teenage Dirtbag, is somebody who's finding their identity as a migrant worker, or somebody who's like finds himself in a strange land and the hostility and all that stuff. That would be the identity that I would think would make the most sense. But the truth is that it's anybody who sticks with what they feel is right for them, regardless of how society sees it, or how people who don't know how to mind their own business see things. You know, like there's a lot of those floating around these days too. So, yeah, that would be my answer on that.
What a great answer too. I was expecting like, look at yourself or something like this, and then just hang up the call. But that's actually a good answer.
Yeah. The audience always tells me how to play it, and that's more important. It's more important what they think, you know.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, thank you very much for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck with everything that's coming up. You are absolutely stacked with just performances, live concerts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's going to be a wild ride. Best of luck.
Here, yeah.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast, and head over to Facebook at the Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.